When I opened my eyes, I stared blankly at the Chinese zodiac calendar hanging on the wall. March 1997. There was still 1 week left until my wedding with Ethan Hayes. Stunned, I jumped out of bed and rushed to the mirror. Looking at my youthful face in a daze, I saw the delicate skin on my hands, untouched by years of household chores. My hand trembled as I pressed it over my chest. Overcome with emotion, I burst into tears. I hadn't yet stepped into the prison of marriage. There was still time. Everything could still be changed. Before I could fully process what was happening, noise came from the courtyard. It was Ethan Hayes. He was holding Jessica Lynn's hand with excitement, confessing to her with deep emotion. "Jessica," he said, "I will never let go of your hand again. After losing you, I realized just how much I regretted spending my life with someone I didn't love. It was unbearable. I don't want to wait until I'm 60 and full of regret. I want us to be together now. Let's go call off the engagement." Hearing his words, I felt a wave of emotions rush through me. I couldn't stop myself from staring at his still youthful face just outside the door. Everything about him, his tone, his urgency, made it clear. Ethan Hayes had been reborn too. In our past life, Ethan had cruelly ripped the oxygen mask off my face, yet still pretended to be a grieving husband in front of everyone. The doctors and nurses who arrived tried to comfort him. "Professor Hayes, you and your wife shared so many years together, supporting each other. We understand this decision must have been extremely difficult. You just couldn't bear to see her suffer. Please accept our condolences. Yes, we all know how deeply you loved her. Life is long, you need to move forward." But only I knew the truth. Ethan had only shed tears because he was too emotionally overwhelmed. He pretended to be devastated and walked away, holding the flowers dramatically, working hard to maintain the image of a good husband and a good professor in front of everyone. In reality, he couldn't wait to head to the airport to pick up the woman he had loved his entire life. Petals fell to the ground, crushed under Ethan's shoes. The scattered branches and leaves became a messy, blackened stain, just like my ridiculous, wasted life. I closed my eyes and lost consciousness completely. I had died from sheer rage. My very first thought after returning was crystal clear. This time, I won't waste my life. I clenched my fists tightly. My parents saw me standing frozen in the doorway and assumed I was heartbroken. My dad's face turned cold as he yelled at Ethan, "Your family is truly ungrateful. All these years, because of your engagement to our daughter, we've supported your family financially and with everything else. When your mom was seriously ill, May and I pulled her through the snow on a cart to get her to the hospital, and now you say you don't love May anymore?" Ethan and I had been engaged since childhood, an arrangement made by our grandfather. The Hayes family had always been poor, barely surviving on borrowed money. My parents, wanting to save face for the engagement, often helped them out however they could. Beside him, Jessica Lynn looked at Ethan with teary, pitiful eyes and said in a soft, aggrieved voice, "Ethan, please don't let this come between you and May because of me. Mr. Sullivan is right. You have to marry her. After all the kindness her family has shown yours, you owe them. Even if I love you deeply, I have to let go." Jessica's seemingly thoughtful and noble words only made Ethan glare at me with more hostility. Then, Ethan's mother came rushing in, gasping for breath. She raised her hand, ready to strike him. "You ungrateful son, the Sullivans have done so much for us, May even saved my life. If you call off the engagement, our family won't be able to show our face in this neighborhood ever again." But though she raised her hand again and again, she couldn't bring herself to hit him. Was she waiting for me to be like I used to, rushing in to stop her, feeling sorry for him? What a joke. Right now, I couldn't wait to slap Ethan Hayes myself, twice. Since I've come back to life, I refuse to be the obedient, supportive wife to Ethan Hayes ever again. This time, I'll live as my true self. "I agree to break off the engagement," I said calmly. Not only Ethan, everyone else was stunned by what I said. Everyone on the block knew I had loved Ethan Hayes since I was a child. How could I so easily agree to let him go? Ethan looked at me in disbelief. "May, are you really willing to let me go?" I let out a cold laugh. "Of course not." As soon as Jessica heard that, she turned away, pretending to wipe away 2 tears. "If May refuses to let you go and won't give us her blessing, then for your future's sake, I'll step away on my own. Ethan, let's end this here." Ethan Hayes, moved by Jessica's words, pulled her tightly into his arms. Then he turned back and shot me a look that said, "I knew it," his expression quickly shifting into one of clear annoyance. But I continued calmly. "So you'll need to pay the money back. Over the years my family has spent quite a bit helping yours, inside and out, and all of it was for the sake of our engagement. Now that you want to call it off, you'll need to settle that debt." Ethan clearly hadn't expected me to ask for the money back. Given my past personality, I would have practically shoved money into his hands. So, instinctively, he thought I was using this as some desperate ploy to make him stay. He looked disgusted, about to agree, but then it hit him. This was 1997. He wasn't some respected professor yet. His pockets were completely empty. "I know you don't have the money," I said, pulling out a pen and paper I'd already prepared. "Just write an IOU. Interest at 2%, $10 a month, to be paid back steadily over 3 years. Ethan's mother, long used to taking advantage of my family, was visibly shaken by my cold, decisive tone. She tugged at Ethan's sleeve and muttered, "Son, if you give back that much money all at once, how are we going to live? Listen to your mother. Say something nice to May. Maybe this money, maybe we don't need to." In his previous life, Ethan had always looked down on us, believing our family to be lowly merchants who only knew how to profit off others. But we had done so much for him, forcing his arrogant self to lower his head again and again. Now that life had given him a second chance, he was full of resentment. There was no way he'd humble himself again. Without another word, he grabbed the pen and started writing the IOU. "Mom, stop talking. I've already applied for the government-sponsored overseas study program in the county. I'll definitely get selected. Once I come back with my degree, this bit of petty cash their family made from hustling won't mean anything to me." Standing beside him, Jessica Lynn gently added, "Ethan, even if your circumstances aren't great now, I don't mind. Even if May holds a grudge and doesn't give you money anymore, with your own ability, you'll still have a bright future." That line brought tears to Ethan's eyes. He was deeply moved. Then, looking full of pride, he handed me the IOU, chin raised high. "Fine, I'll pay it back, and let me tell you, without you, May Sullivan, I'll still live a great life." I took the IOU without a flicker of emotion over his harsh words. I'd already made up my mind. Back then, I'd been really interested in running a business. But Ethan kept calling it shady profiteering and said it embarrassed him, so I reluctantly gave it up to become a housewife. But now that I had a second shot, and with the reform and opening up era in full swing, I was going to go all in. This time I was living for me. Besides, without me running around pulling strings for Ethan back then, how did he think he even got that overseas scholarship in the first place? In reality, Ethan couldn't wait. Not long after breaking off the engagement, he rushed into a wedding with Jessica Lynn. Compared to the shabby little ceremony I had with him in our past life, just a strip of red cloth and a few words. This time, the Hayes family went all out. Even borrowed money to buy Jessica a wedding dress. The traditional 4-piece dowry, not a single one was missing. The wedding procession paraded around the entire county before finally arriving at the Hayes family's old house. As I stood there watching blankly, Mrs. Zhao, a neighbor from the street, noticed and immediately scoffed. "Ungrateful brat. Don't be fooled by how grand he looks now. He's neck-deep in debt. He's borrowed from every neighbor around here, promising to pay double once that study abroad grant comes in. Like that'll even happen! May, sweetheart, don't be sad. I'll find you someone way better." Sad? I didn't have time to be sad. The next 20 years would be the years of China's economic boom. I had to seize the moment and make serious money. Ethan Hayes? Ryan Hayes? Zach Hayes? I wasn't going to need any of them. Just thinking that, I quickly stepped forward and handed over the goods in my hand. "Thanks, Mrs. Zhao. Look at these. Denim jeans. Super popular down south right now. Have a look. If there's something you like, I'll give you 20% off. My clothing shop officially opens tomorrow. Be sure to bring the other ladies over to support me." Mrs. Zhao's eyes practically disappeared behind her smile. What I never expected was that, later that evening while I was restocking inventory, Ethan Hayes and Jessica Lynn showed up at my shop. He clicked his tongue in mock disappointment. "Tsk, tsk, tsk. After all that hustle, you ended up with a tiny, run-down little place like this?" Then he waved dismissively. Forget it. Jessica, see if there's a pair of pants you like. Pick something. I rolled my eyes at Ethan and didn't hold back. Cash only, we don't accept IOUs. Ethan's pride took a hit. He immediately raised his voice. What, you think I can't afford it? Jessica, go ahead and choose whatever you like. I'll buy it for you. Without even looking up from my ledger, I replied flatly. Sure looks like spending borrowed money doesn't bother you one bit. But if I'm not mistaken, Jessica, isn't your dance school enrollment fee due soon? Jessica's hand, which had just picked up a pair of jeans, froze midair. She glanced nervously at Ethan. Ethan, the registration fee is 100 yuan. Ethan, trying to stay proud, pulled the cash out anyway and slapped it on the counter. If you like it, then buy it. And May, don't think just because you've got a little money now, we'll ever bow to you. Jessica isn't like you, reeking of cheap commerce. I wasn't angry at all. In fact, I smiled cheerfully as I rang up the sale, gave them their change, and neatly packed the jeans into a bag. After all, who has a problem with money? Oh right, Ethan Hayes does. As they were leaving, Ethan arrogantly tapped his fingers on my counter. Don't forget to attend the county meeting tomorrow. They'll be announcing the official list for the government-funded overseas study program. There's also going to be a big financial grant issued. Once that comes through, I'll be able to pay off everything I owe you in one go. Keep your eyes open and see for yourself how great I'm doing without you. Sure, without me, you still became a professor. I didn't show a trace of emotion. I just looked at him with a cool expression and said nothing. The next day, Ethan showed up in his most expensive Zhongshan suit, radiating pride. Even provincial officials from the capital city were attending the event today. He couldn't wait to show off. In recent days, the gossip from the neighbors about him canceling the engagement and borrowing money had left Ethan stewing with shame. He'd been enduring it all just to bask in today's glory. His mother had been going around bragging about her son studying abroad for the past half-month. She'd invited half the street to the event, already carrying candy in her pockets to hand out when the announcement came. The neighbors were full of praise, their compliments flowing non-stop. I've lived all these years and never even been to the provincial capital. Ethan is so young and already going abroad, what a future he has. Yeah, I heard that once he comes back, he'll be teaching in the capital. He'll be a professor, doing scientific research. He'll even be on TV. This life was worth it for him. Ethan, once you make it big, don't forget about us. You'll bring honor to the whole street. Each line of flattery made Ethan forget himself even more. When he saw me arrive, he lifted his chin high. Next time we meet, you'd better address me as Professor Hayes. Just look at yourself. A petty little merchant. How could you ever be worthy of me? Still, I didn't get angry. I smiled and replied calmly, Professor Hayes, show some respect. There's no such thing as shady profiteering anymore. It's called running a business. Ethan snorted through his nose. Always got something to argue back with, huh? Let me tell you, from now on, no one will say I'm heartless. They'll only say that you, May Sullivan, weren't good enough for me. The opening speeches dragged on for half an hour. Then came the most anticipated part of the event, the announcement of the official selections. The microphone crackled to life as each applicant's name was read, along with whether they were selected. Ji Zhang, not selected. Yu Zhenhao, not selected. Lin Xian, selected. At the sound of that name, Ethan's smile grew even wider. In the previous life, only he and Lin Xian had been selected, so it seemed that nothing had changed in this one either. Tian Liangwei, selected. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. When Ethan Hayes' name was called, every head in the room turned to look at him. Beaming with pride, he stood up, straightened his back, and adjusted his jacket. As long as he made it in, he would still become the respected Professor Hayes he was in his past life. The whispers from the neighbors, the borrowed money, even Jessica Lynn's registration fee, all of it would be resolved. Everything would fall into place. Ethan Hayes would go on to live the happiest, most successful life. He had already eagerly stepped forward, 1 foot ahead, sweeping a condescending glance over me. But in the very next second, the voice over the microphone announced, "Not selected." Ethan froze where he stood. In disbelief, he raised his voice on the spot. "What?" The host, visibly awkward, repeated, "Comrade Ethan Hayes has not been selected. I'm sorry. Please take a seat." But Ethan didn't move an inch. Eventually his mother, too embarrassed to let the scene drag on, pulled him down into the chair by force. Ethan slumped down in the seat, face pale, body trembling, muttering over and over, "This can't be. It's not possible." The moment the selection announcements ended, Ethan staggered to his feet and rushed to the reviewing official. Grabbing him by the sleeve, he immediately launched into a wild outburst. "Why wasn't I selected? Why? I was supposed to be on the list. Was it because you were jealous of me in our last life when we both ran for the party committee? Is that why you're screwing me over in this life too?" The official's sleeve was twisted completely out of shape from Ethan's grip. Though annoyed by Ethan's bizarre ramblings, the man tried to stay calm and explain. "I have no idea what nonsense you're talking about. The selection was based purely on scores. There's only one slot, and Comrade Lin Shan scored 1 point higher than you. Naturally, he gets the spot. Ethan, you came in second. That's still excellent. You need to adjust your mindset and accept the result." But Ethan only grew more hysterical. "Only one spot? No, there were two. There were two in the last life. How am I supposed to accept this? My whole future depends on this one chance. You all better check again. I couldn't have remembered it wrong. You made a mistake." Even the official's patience ran out. Seeing how worked up Ethan was getting, and fearing he might cause an even bigger scene, he eventually had the guards escort Ethan out of the auditorium to calm him down. Ethan was left standing outside the hall, blocked by security. His mother and the neighbors, all embarrassed beyond belief, had already left quietly. Now he was crouched alone in a corner by the wall, staring up at the bulletin board with the official list of names, laughing and crying at the same time. His expensive Zhongshan suit was wrinkled beyond saving, his hair disheveled from all the thrashing. There wasn't a trace left of the proud, educated man he fancied himself to be. I stood at a distance, watching coldly as he spiraled. Only when he seemed too exhausted to continue did I finally walk up and ask calmly, "Ethan Hayes, do you know why you were chosen last time?" Ethan froze for a moment, then quickly stood up, eyes wide with shock as he looked at me. "Wait, last time? You?" I shook my head and gave a faint smile, not answering the question. Instead, I said, "That spot. You got it because I begged for it. There was only one place. Last time, I went to the director and pleaded with him to give you a chance because you came in second. I even offered to pay the fees myself. I don't even remember how many people I begged, how many doors slammed in my face before they reluctantly agreed." I looked him in the eye. "Didn't you ever wonder why your money was sent directly to you?" Ethan immediately snapped back. "That's impossible. You're lying. I got selected on my own merits. It was you meddling in everything that made people say I had connections." I looked at him steadily, my voice calm. "The first month's scholarship stipend was 800 yuan. That was all my savings over the years. The second month, 815 yuan. You didn't want me doing business, so I pulled coal for people, picked up scrap cardboard, saved every penny from my food just to make that money. The third month—" "Stop it," Ethan shouted, stepping back like he was seeing a ghost. "Shut up, just stop. None of this makes sense. You're lying. You're a liar." But the more he yelled, the more his voice shook, the quieter he became. Deep down, Ethan knew the truth. During that time abroad, he never wrote me a single letter. There was no way I could know these details unless it had really happened. The only explanation was that I was telling the truth. "You've always had too much pride," I said quietly. "That's why I never told you. I just wanted to save your face. But what did I get in return? When you came back from studying abroad, you looked at me, your so-called wife from hard times, and saw nothing but flaws. My eyes, my nose, nothing about me pleased you. You looked down on my plain clothes, scorned me for being uneducated. You wouldn't even let someone like me step foot into your precious study. And in the end, when I was desperately clinging to life, you were the one who sent me to my death with your own hands." My chest heaved violently. The injustice, the bitterness of that past life surged up and filled my chest so tight I couldn't breathe. The only way it could escape was through the tears running uncontrollably down the corners of my eyes. "So Ethan Hayes," I said, voice calm but cutting, "all of this, you brought on yourself. You deserve everything that's happened." Then I turned and walked away, not sparing him even a glance. I'd only taken 2 steps when his arrogant voice echoed behind me. You think this will make me bow down to you in this life? Don't kid yourself. Even without you, even if I never become a professor, I'll still live a successful, happy life. Jessica Lynn is beautiful and gentle. She dances, she finished high school. She's 1,000 times better than you in every way. Just wait and see. You still won't be worthy of me in this lifetime. Fine. I'll wait, I said to myself. Later that week, Mrs. Zhao came to visit my store. May, she said cheerfully, there's a young man who works in government PR. One of the women at the Women's Federation says he's decent, honest, upright. If you're free this weekend, maybe meet him? I shook my head with a smile and tucked a pair of socks into her shopping bag. Mrs. Zhao, my video and audio shop just opened this morning. My mind's really not on that stuff right now. But thank you for always caring about me and supporting my business. These socks just came in from Guangzhou. Try them out. Let me know if they're comfortable. Mrs. Zhao huffed and tapped me on the forehead, pretending to scold me. You. But honestly, maybe it's a good thing you never married that Ethan Hayes. Your life is going better than ever now. Bet you didn't know, he's flat broke these days. She leaned in close, lowering her voice. Tsk, tsk, tsk. He gathered all those people to watch him get announced at the county event, and in the end, he didn't even get selected. What a disgrace. And you know, he borrowed all that money claiming he was guaranteed to go abroad. Now he's been assigned to an elementary school as a teacher. Sure, he makes 50 yuan a month, but with all the debt he's racked up, who knows when he'll pay it off. Someone tried to help him find a side job, and he had the nerve to say they insulted him. Acts like he's too good for everything, even though his family can barely put food on the table. See, that's why you can't talk trash behind people's backs. Karma comes fast. Mrs. Zhao was mid-rant when Ethan Hayes appeared again, head lowered, walking straight into my store. Without a word, he knocked on the counter. May Sullivan, come out here. What? I said flatly. You call me and I'm supposed to just come running? Guess you're still used to ordering me around like I was your free maid in the last life. I didn't even look at him. My shop was busy, and I didn't have time to waste. If you have something to say it here. He clearly hadn't expected me to shut him down so directly. For a moment, he was at a loss. Then, awkwardly, he reached into his bag and pulled out a plastic sack, the same jeans he had bought for Jessica Lynn. Return these for me. I glanced at them. Can't. The tags were cut, and they've been washed. That's not fair, Ethan protested. She only wore them once or twice. Why won't you take them back? Don't take out your bitterness on me just because you couldn't have me. Before I could even respond, Mrs. Zhao stepped in front of the counter like a shield and jabbed a finger at Ethan's nose. Have you no shame, Ethan Hayes? Who tries to return clothes that have already been worn and washed? You think May's an easy target? Trying to get your money back this way? Bitterness? Ha, you've got some nerve. May's running 2 stores now. She's about to hit 10,000 yuan in savings. Do you know how many people would line up to date her? Lucky for her, you dumped her when you did. Otherwise, she'd be dragging dead weight like you for the rest of her life. As soon as Mrs. Zhao raised her voice, the rest of the neighbors chimed in from outside, and Ethan couldn't even lift his head. His face turned crimson, humiliated. He had no choice but to yank me outside by force. It wasn't until we reached the corner of the alley that he finally spoke. May, fine. You don't want to return the jeans. That's fine. But at least pay Jessica Lynn's registration fee. I let out a mocking laugh. Why should I? Am I her mom now? Ethan had the nerve to straighten his face and lecture me. But didn't you always give her money in the last life? Besides, she twisted her ankle because of you and couldn't attend the dance academy. May, this is you making amends. I rolled my eyes at him without the slightest attempt to hide my disgust. First of all, in our past life, it was you who used money from our family to support her. Every time I protested even a little, you acted like I was the villain. I gave in, for the sake of the family, for the kids, and because of that, our family bled dry for her. Second, she didn't twist her ankle because of me, she fell on her own. The hospital even confirmed there was nothing wrong with her foot. And besides, with how far she ranked from the top, Only a fool like you, blinded by infatuation, would believe she ever had a shot at getting into a real dance school. Ethan reflexively jumped to Jessica's defense. Don't try to clear your name by smearing Jessica. She's always been the star of the dance program. She could have gotten in. Jessica isn't like you, so obsessed with money. She's pure, graceful, cultured, educated. She's the one who truly understands me. If it hadn't been for you, we would have been together in the last life. But thankfully, she divorced her husband for me in the end. I couldn't take his stupidity anymore and cut him off mid-rant. Divorced? Jessica went abroad because she got involved with some rich foreign businessman. She wasn't married, she was his mistress. When she got older and couldn't find anyone overseas to take her in, she saw that you were doing well back home and came crawling back. And you seriously believe that crap about I left for your happiness? You're dumber than I thought. Ethan's face turned red with fury, but I had no interest in arguing with him further. Fine, I won't keep talking, but in this life I never tripped her, right? Let Jessica take the entrance exam again. When the results are posted, let's see them. And since you think your precious Jessica is so noble and refined, let's see if she still loves you just as much when you're broke and nameless. Ethan shoved the jeans back into his bag and hissed at me through clenched teeth. You're full of lies. Jessica's not like that. I'll prove it to you. I never found out where Ethan managed to scrape together the money, but somehow, Jessica Lynn did go take the entrance exam. On the day the results were posted, I was restocking inventory at my new store in the garment market, a 2-story shop I'd just leased. Business was booming, and I was busier than ever. That's when Mrs. Zhao's little grandson came running in, panicked. Sister May, please come help my mom. Grandma and Mom are fighting. My mom can't hold her back, and someone's about to get hurt, even me. Mrs. Zhao worked with the Women's Federation, and she often mediated disputes between women in the community. But when emotions flared up, things could escalate fast. Blood and bruises weren't uncommon. Without hesitation, I dropped what I was doing and ran out with the boy. When we arrived, I was shocked to find out who was involved. It was Ethan's mother and Jessica Lynn. Ethan's mom was being held back tightly by Mrs. Zhao but still kept struggling to break free. She pointed at Jessica and shouted, "You little fox, you've drained this family dry, shopping every day. Who the hell are you putting all that makeup on for? You don't earn a dime, don't lift a finger around the house, and sit there like a queen. How did my son end up marrying a disaster like you?" Jessica, equally enraged, shouted back, "That's because your son wanted to marry me. And I'm a dancer. A dancer's hands aren't meant for laundry or housework." Ethan's mother grew even more furious and lunged forward, grabbing Jessica's hair and yanking it hard. "He even mortgaged the house to pay for your entrance fee. And now you're telling me you didn't get in. How could you do this to my son? How could you do this to our family? If I hadn't caught you doing laundry by the river, kissing that foreign man in the woods, God knows how long my son would have been wearing that green hat." Jessica screamed in rage, her pride stabbed to the core. She launched herself back at Ethan's mom, clawing at her face with sharp nails. The two of them were locked in a full-on brawl, yelling, scratching, hair flying. It was chaos, ugly, raw, and absolutely impossible to break apart. Ethan's assistant came running, shouting, "Get help! Ethan Hayes is back!" With the police stepping in, the chaos finally quieted down just enough for people to start speaking clearly. Ethan looked around at the crowd packed in layers, watching the drama unfold with eager eyes. His face burned with humiliation and anger. "What are you two doing?" he snapped. "Are you seriously trying to ruin me in front of the whole neighborhood? How am I supposed to hold my head up after this?" His mother immediately grabbed hold of his arm and began crying. Her voice choked with emotion. "My son, thank God you're here. That little tramp was about to run off after I caught her cheating. She's already packed her bags. We went into massive debt just to marry her, and now she's ditching us for some rich guy? Where's the justice in that?" Ethan didn't respond. Instead, his expression turned cold as he turned toward Jessica. "Jessica Lynn, you told me you were just under pressure, that you were struggling with your performance. But when I went to your school, your teacher told me you barely showed up for class. Your grades were at the bottom, and you've been spending a lot of time with some foreign guy. They said the top student was your classmate, Jenny Wu. So you've been lying to me this whole time, haven't you? Jessica's face flushed with both anger and embarrassment. You actually investigated me? I'm asking you, is it true? Ethan demanded. Realizing she was cornered, Jessica dropped the pretense and snapped back. Yes, fine. Since you found out, I won't sugarcoat it anymore. Everything your mom said is true. What you said is also true, but none of this is my fault. You said you'd become a professor, that you'd study abroad, get massive grants, and one day make it big. That's why I stuck with you. Jessica looked at Ethan with a sneer of disdain. But look at my life after we got married. Sure, the wedding gifts looked fancy, but they were all bought with borrowed money. Every month when your paycheck came in, debt collectors would line up at the door like vultures. We couldn't even afford to cook with lard. Forget about eating meat. And now you want to return the only new clothes I've got? You're nothing but a broke loser with nothing but your fake pride. If you really had talent, you'd have humbled yourself and gone out to earn a living. Marrying you ruined my entire life. Ethan looked stunned, as if he couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. His voice trembled. Didn't I treat you well? I borrowed money to pay for your tuition and living expenses. Jessica, life's been hard lately, but when you married me, you said you didn't care about money, that we'd work through it together. You said we'd build a better life. Jessica snorted. You really believed that crap? How was I supposed to have a better life without money? Let me tell you, I'm leaving the country in a few days with my man. He's rich and owns a factory in the US. We need to get this divorce finalized. I don't want to have anything to do with a loser like you ever again. Without another word, she shoved Ethan aside and walked off down the street without looking back. That tramp! Ethan's mother shouted, pointing after Jessica. She cheated on my son and buried us in debt, and now she dares to walk away? She grew more and more agitated as she yelled, until her breath caught in her chest. She began gasping, wheezing, her body going limp, an asthma attack. May, thank you, if it weren't for you. But I raised my hand and cut Ethan off. If it had been anyone else, I still would have helped. Take care of your mother. I have work to do. I turned to leave, but Ethan's mother grabbed my hand tightly. May, it's all Jessica's fault. If she hadn't seduced Ethan back then, the two of you would have been married by now. They say true love is proven through hardship. You're a good woman, truly. I heard you're still single, right? She turned to Ethan. Ethan, listen to your mom. Divorce that tramp and marry May. She's successful now. I've heard her shop is thriving. One of these days I'll go help her at the counter too. Work the abacus, help with the bookkeeping. I could practically feel the abacus beads flying straight into my face. The kindness on my face instantly vanished. Whatever sympathy I might have had for this old woman disappeared in a heartbeat. Why the hell had I wasted my time trying to save her? I pulled my hand free from Ethan's mother, my voice as cold as ice. I'm not married because I don't want to be married. It has nothing to do with Ethan Hayes. As for me and him, in this lifetime there's no chance in hell I'd marry him, so give it up. I gave a small smile, deliberately twisting the knife for both Ethan and his mother, because I, May Sullivan, don't marry divorced men. The way Ethan and his mom both stood there, faces pale, stunned, speechless, filled me with an indescribable sense of satisfaction. I tilted my chin slightly, smiled with scorn, and turned to walk away. But apparently my rejection still wasn't enough to kill Ethan's delusion. The next day, he showed up at the entrance of my video store, holding a thermos of chicken soup. I went to your clothing store and saw you weren't there, he said. So I figured you might be here. I made this soup myself. My mom said it turned out pretty good. I brought you some to try. I didn't even look up. I'm not sick. I don't need it. You drink it. May, don't shut me out like this. Just take it as me repaying a debt for everything I did wrong in this life and the last. I glanced at him coldly. Repaying a debt? Please. After you became successful, you mocked me so many times. You said if it weren't to repay a debt, I never would have married a woman like you, so obsessed with making money, too lazy to pick up a book. If you really feel guilty, then leave. The farther the better. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Don't let the stink of my vulgar little business world stain your so-called noble academic soul." Ethan's face turned beet red. He stood there silently for who knows how long. When I finally looked up again, he was gone. "Piggy," I told my assistant. "Next time he comes by, don't even let him in." In the days that followed, Ethan kept showing up at my shop, trying to hang around, making himself visible. But thankfully, I'd already instructed my staff to keep him out firmly. Still, a week later, he managed to catch me behind the warehouse entrance. As soon as he saw me, he rushed forward, unable to hold back. "May, I'm sorry. I know, I should have said that to you a long time ago. My pride's always been strong. You've seen me at my worst, my most pathetic, and I guess I kept putting you down just to avoid facing how weak and ugly I felt inside. But now I finally realize how wrong I was. You were the one who truly cared about me. All those years, managing the household, raising the kids, you gave everything. I just realized it too late. But this time around, I promise I'll treat you like gold. I'll be good to you, I swear." His apology should have made me feel something. Maybe in another life it would have. But all I felt was regret. Regret that I ever loved a man like him. Regret that I wasted an entire lifetime. Looking at Ethan's still handsome face, all I felt now was calm detachment. "I heard you," I said, "but I don't accept your apology. I can't forgive the version of me who used to cry under the covers, begging for your affection. In this life, I have money, I have looks, and I still have time. But in the last life, I was bedridden for years. Did you ever once look in on me? 50 years of coldness, indifference, and in the end, cheating inside our marriage." I took a deep breath and continued slowly. "You say it's pride, but it's not. You're insecure, a coward. You only felt good about yourself by tearing me down. You used to say, without me, could you even live a good life? But you, Ethan Hayes, without me, you're just trash." I pulled a flyer from my pocket and shoved it into his hand. Using his own words against him, I said, "My restaurant opens tomorrow. Come celebrate, and make sure you open your eyes wide and see clearly how great I'm doing without you." Ethan didn't show up. Maybe he was hiding in the crowd, watching from a distance. But it didn't matter to me at all anymore. I was too busy for that. Cutting the ribbon, greeting guests, running the register. I was completely swamped, because I had the memories of a whole lifetime. Bring a friend and get 10 yuan off the bill. Free fruit during the first 3 days of opening. Come during off-peak hours and get 10% off. I mastered every modern marketing tactic like the back of my hand. It wasn't until late at night, when I was doing the accounting, that I overheard Piggy chatting idly with me. "May," she said, "did you hear? That teacher Ethan Hayes, he lost his job." My hand paused mid-count. "Even that job, he lost it?" Piggy nodded. "It's about the house. Remember how he mortgaged it to pay Jessica Lynn's exam fees? Turns out they couldn't repay the loan. And the company that took the deed? Total scam, interest piled up like crazy. They didn't just lose the house, they still owe a ton. And the worst part is, the debt collectors went to his school. It's illegal, sure, but the kids were terrified. Parents filed complaints left and right, so the school had to let him go. Now, everyone avoids their family like the plague. The people who lent them money? They're furious, calling him names and chasing him for repayment every day. They've already pawned off all their household appliances to cover debts. I even heard his mom had another asthma attack, but they don't have money for treatment." I wrapped a rubber band around a stack of bills and said blandly, "Is that so? No more kindness this time. When he ripped off my oxygen tube in our past life, when he sent me straight to death, did he ever imagine there'd come a day like this? Let go of the savior complex. Respect others' karma. In this life, Ethan Hayes is reaping the seeds he sowed, and he'll have to swallow the bitter fruit himself. Piggy, from now on, you're acting manager at the restaurant. The county's market has its limits. I'm heading to the provincial capital for a while." And the city really was way ahead. The economy was taking off fast. The clothing stores and video shops I opened back in the county? Not exactly hot sellers anymore. After all, it was the 90s now. Roller rinks, karaoke bars, internet cafes, cell phone shops, electronics markets, arcades, milk tea joints. That was what people wanted now. And I went after them. Success came quickly. From Miss Shoe to Boss Shoe to President Shoe and eventually Entrepreneur Shoe. As for Ethan Hayes, I heard less and less about him after I moved to the city. Only when my parents returned to the county for visits did I catch the occasional vague mention. They'd say he was doing the very job he once looked down on, selling toys. His mother had died of untreated illness. He was constantly chased by creditors. One time, he got hit by a car while trying to run from them and was left with a permanent limp. But mostly, people talked about me. They'd say how proud they were. That a big-time entrepreneur came out of a tiny county town. That newspapers and TV stations talked about me. That the new paved roads in town were thanks to my donations. I didn't comment. I just smiled and helped my parents into their new clothes and jewelry. In my last life, I was a housewife, always reaching out with an open palm, living off Ethan Hayes. I never had the money to buy anything nice for my parents, let alone take care of them properly. But now that I had both money and freedom, I was more than happy to spoil them with everything good. May, this bracelet's too fancy. I can't pull it off. Don't be silly, honey, my mom said with pride. She's our daughter. It's her way of showing love. Now, when we go back to town, who doesn't say May made it big? 20 years passed in a blink. Maybe it was because this life had been so full of happiness, but I almost forgot what it had felt like in the last one. That is, until today, when I brought my daughter back to the county to visit my parents. On the street, I spotted a man pushing a stove, selling roasted sweet potatoes. He had a limp, and something about him looked painfully familiar. Mom, my daughter said, they don't even sell sweet potatoes like this at my college. I crave them all the time. Smiling, I stopped the car and took her over to pick some out. The man's hair was gray, his face deeply wrinkled. His hands were coarse and calloused. The cotton hat on his head had lost its shape. He hunched over, stuffing sweet potatoes into the stove, his whole body wrapped in a cloud of ash and smoke. It was Ethan Hayes. When our eyes met, he looked especially awkward. He quickly reached up and fumbled with his hat. May, long time no see. I nodded silently, that was all. When we were about to leave, he insisted on not taking any money. Let the kid have them. It's on me. As we tugged back and forth, I heard someone calling my name from behind. It was my husband, Xian Lin. He was holding a huge bouquet of flowers, jogging toward me with a bright smile as he opened the car door. There was a conference overseas, he said, slightly out of breath. It ran late and I rushed over the moment I got off the plane. I hope our beautiful Miss Sullivan isn't mad at me. Happy anniversary. I shook my head as I accepted the flowers. You didn't need to rush. It's just an ordinary day. Look at you, those dark circles under your eyes. Our daughter teased from the side. Professor Lin, what are you doing? You two are an old married couple, and you're still acting all mushy. Xian smiled and mock scolded. Hey, your mom will always be a young girl in my eyes. Then he pulled out his wallet and handed some cash to Ethan Hayes, who was still standing awkwardly beside his sweet potato stove. With a wide, contented grin, Xian said, 15 yuan for 4? I only have a 20. Keep the change. It's our anniversary today, he added. Let's all be in a good mood. Some pedestrians passing by couldn't help but whisper to each other. Now that's the kind of love people dream of. Married young, growing old together, and still affectionate. I caught the way Ethan's eyes turned slightly red at the corners as he overheard them. The three of us turned and walked away together. May, take the sweet potatoes for now, Xian said. Let's go walk around the supermarket as a family. I'm making cola chicken wings tonight. You loved it the first time I cooked it. Stop making stuff up, I laughed. I was just surprised that someone who always held a pen could also wield a spatula. What's wrong with that? He shot back, grinning. Not only can I use a spatula, I'm a master with a mop and a broom too. His playful words made me chuckle. My gaze landed on the vibrant bouquet in his arms. Each petal was carefully protected, every stem tenderly held. In this life he cradled every piece of my happiness.